Hi guys, I'm Joey from Eunogo.
And I'm Zhenia from Eunogo.
So Zhenia, it's been almost 2 years since you worked for Eunogo. And over the 2 years, I've seen you asking a lot of questions. I'm really shocked about all the facts about Korean plastic surgery. Today, you have came up with a lot of questions that you had for while you're working in Eunogo.
Yes. So we thought our viewers might be interested to hear kind of the things that have made me go, and what? Over the last almost 2 years that I've spent at Eunogo. So the first thing that I have is not really a question, but more an observation that I've kind of seen over the last couple of years. And that is that in South Korea, there is absolutely no stigma around having plastic surgery or any sort of procedures done. So I can say as an American and maybe in a lot of other cultures, there's kind of a way that people will deny that they've had anything done. So they'll just say, I'm so refreshed, or they'll say, I've been drinking a lot of water, I'm hydrated, and I'm sleeping 8 hours a day. But really, they've had some tweaks here and there.
I mean, even Botox, I realized some people want to hide.
Yeah, so even with something as simple as Botox, they'll say, no, I'm using a new face cream.
But I cannot move my
face. So,
it's absolutely true. I see that in South Korea, a lot of people are more open about they admit that they have done surgery. I mean, when I talk to my friends, I haven't seen anyone who will be trying to hide the fact that they've done procedures. Because people know, I mean, they're your friends. So once you meet, you realize the difference. So there's no shame on saying what you've done. And also it's your own decision. So I think people are pretty open about it. So I also realized when I first moved to Singapore, I mean, people comment on my skin. Joey, you have a great skin. What's your secret? And then I'm like, it's all fat grafting and PRP. And they're like, what?
Clutch of pearls, my God.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you I drank a lot of water and sleep a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, what I've done is what I've done. And I think in South Korea, in general, people are more open about it.
I think there's also a statistic that I saw that was really eye-opening to me, which is that 1 in 3 Korean women aged 19 to 29 have had some sort of procedure, which is why Korea is also considered the leading plastic surgery capital of the world.
Yeah. So does usually include the braces? Dental is considered the cosmetic procedure, plus Botox and fillers. So I wouldn't say 1/3 of population have gone under serious invasive plastic surgery. I think most people think outside Korea. So when I go travel abroad, and just because I'm Korean, some people will ask me, so have you done plastic surgery? Because I know that most Koreans, that's the first question I get. I think that number is a bit overrated, but still, I would say at least 1 in 10 women in South Korea have gone under plastic surgery. And that's why that leads to, we have so many plastic surgery clinics in South Korea. I mean, just in Gangnam area, we have over 500 plastic surgery clinics.
Yeah, which is insane to me. That's because Gangnam is, and if you know the song, so Gangnam is a really upper class area of Seoul, but it's a neighborhood. It's not even a city. It's just a neighborhood. And in one neighborhood, over 500 clinics.
Yeah. So that shows that in South Korea, there are a lot of demands. A lot of people are going through procedures, and that's why there's so many clinics and so many experienced doctors. And that explains a lot about what we do at Eunogo, because most foreigners also want to fly to South Korea to do procedure by the surgeons that have most experience.
Because there's so many clinics, one of the things that Eunogo does is that we vet the clinics and the doctors. We also have a license to do this from the South Korean government.
Yeah, our Eunogo Korea office, so our Korea team has the medical tourism license obtained by Ministry of Health and Welfare in South Korea. And then one of our value proposition for customers is definitely a lot of verification, because there's just so many clinics. Not all clinics are equally good and safe, and also catering to international clients. So we have heavy effort into selecting the right clinic so that make sure our clients get the best results and safe journey.
Yeah. And speaking of safety, one of the other reasons why it's so important, and I don't want to like scare anybody, but this was also something that I learned that I didn't really realize existed, but there is such a thing in the Korean plastic surgery world called a ghost doctor. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, so many people are shocked to hear there's a ghost
Who's
doctor. There's always the face of the one clinic, the most experienced surgeon who has the most education.
Like the senior.
Yes, the senior. So many people visit the clinic to get surgery from the senior surgeon. However, he cannot do all the surgery, and then he also hired 30 other doctors. So what are they going to do? In order to train other doctors, so they may have some consultation from the senior surgeon, but then in the end, when in the surgery room, they switch the doctor to some doctor who are less experienced. So that's what it called a ghost doctor. So at Eunogo, we also want to prevent that.
Yes.
Yeah, we want to make sure it's a client choice whether they do a senior doctor or less senior doctor, but experienced. But then they have to know, and then they have to go into the surgery room with the doctor that they choose. One of the things that we do is we have a concierge team in Korea to make sure our clients get the best doctors, plus they are getting the surgery from the doctor they have consultation with. Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that I learned is that plastic surgery in Korea is not cheap. I think a lot of people think about it in terms of like, because it's such a popular place to get plastic surgery, and they kind of think about like Thailand and Brazil in terms of like cost, but really it's not very cheap. It's less expensive than if you were to do it in, let's say, the States or in the UK or Singapore, but it's not going to be like,
there's also additional cost of flying and accommodation. So I would say most people don't fly just to save money. You can still save money rather by not doing it in the States and doing it in Korea. But I think there's a big gap of the surgery price. But then most people fly to Korea for quality rather than saving costs. If it's like really for the saving costs, then people will fly to Thailand, where things are cheaper than South Korea. Yeah, so we came together with some price chart on our website. So if anybody's curious about the overall range of plastic surgery, they can visit us on the Eunogo.com and see all the range of the plastic surgery.
And that was also an eye-opening chart for me, because when I looked to see how much surgeries would cost, I was like pleasantly surprised, but also surprised by how more expensive some things that I thought would be less expensive.
And then you're also surprised by variety of procedure.
Yes. Speaking of that, okay. So this was the other thing, because every once in a while, like I would see the name of a procedure and then I would look it up and then I would be shocked as to what it is. So for example, actually one of the leading procedures besides double eyelid surgery in Korea is something called V-line surgery, which is not very common in the West. Can you tell us more about that?
V-line surgery usually come with 3 different types of surgery, and they do it all together. So first one is the cheekbone reduction, and then the jaw reduction, and then the chin surgery. So in Korea, people want kind of like really X shape, more feminine, softer shape of their face. So if they have a like bulky cheekbone and bulky jaws, then they want to kind of shave it.
Yeah.
So it's a bone and muscle surgery.
So the V line refers to V rather than a square. Like this. Yeah, and that's actually a really, it's quite an extensive procedure. And the reason why people like to go to Korea to do it is because it's very common and the surgeons have a lot of experience doing this.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. One of the other things that really struck me is that there are quite a few men in South Korea that get plastic surgery too. Don't get it twisted, it's not just us ladies. But there's a major difference between the Western aesthetic for men and Korean aesthetics for men. In the West, right? In the West, we want that rugged, like, jawline, and guys get like, it's quite trendy right now for guys to get filler here, just to make, to add it. Yeah. But in Korea, it's completely different.
Yeah, so I was surprised in the beginning when we got like the inquiries from the clients from the States usually. Is there any like jaw surgery? And then our concierge will usually refer to V-line, the shaving. No, I want it bigger. Muscle. I want it bigger.
Yes.
Like, what? Why? Yeah, so I think the Korean surgeons are less experienced in terms of making it the bigger jaw. They're more experienced towards the V-line and shaving. So when you look at all the male Korean celebrity, you don't see many of the Western desire like bulky looks. They're mostly very like egg-shaped V-line.
Feminine, I think. Yes, it's a softer, more feminine aesthetic. Whereas in the West, you know, we're like rugged, macho. Yeah. So there's no right or wrong, but I think it's really, really interesting just to see how culturally it's quite different. Yeah. So, thank you again for answering some of my questions.
You're very welcome.
And telling our viewers some of the more interesting parts about being in this industry. If you guys have any more questions for Joy or myself, but I would say mostly Joy, she is the expert here. Drop us some comments below and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and then also we prepare some part 2, which is more than plastic surgery. So K-beauty is not just plastic surgery.
No.
There's like facials or procedures, like non-surgical procedure.
Skincare.
Yeah, so stay tuned for our next episode and thank you very much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to Eunogo channel if you'd like to see more about K-beauty tips and this interviews and anything about K-beauty. Thank you.